Hello and welcome. This is Schnee from Archives of Nearless, and today I'm going to talk about the user interface, or for short, UI. I'm going to talk about how you can set it up that you get the information that you need in raids, and that you're not missing, the crucial proc or the debuff on yourself that you should cleanse. So let's jump right into it. I'm doing this by the fly. No, I'm doing this on the fly, by the way. Haha, English, beautiful language. Maybe I should talk like this, because then you would actually really hear that I am a German and this is not my mother tongue, so I sometimes still struggle with the English language, which is a pity, I think. Yeah, but let's not do that. Okay, so let's start here. Not with the editor. So what I did here is this is my character, so this is where I usually look during gameplay, in the middle of the screen, and downwards from that, that's kind of a pyramid-esque build. So yeah, well, my character frame, my target frame, here is the target of target, which is rather important, especially for tanks. Then these are the skills that I use most of the time, then skills that I also use regularly, but not as often as those. So quick bar 1, quick bar 2, and then stuff that I rarely use on the bottom. Okay, so let's talk about target of target. If you're a tank and you should have the aggro, the target of target is really important for you, because this should always show your face, because then you know you have the aggro. And if you're a DPS, this should show the boss, and this should show the tank. So if your picture pops up here, you know you just stole the aggro, or you have the aggro. For healers, that's a bit different, because you're usually not targeting the boss. So yeah, well, but you get my meaning, I think. Now let's go into the interface editor, and first off, you can see that I scaled down the global scale, because my monitor is 29 inches, and if I scale down, it's still big enough for me to see everything clearly. So if you have a smaller monitor, then you probably don't want to do that, but this is important for you to bear in mind, so you see the ratio is different. It's not global scale 1 as is the default. What I'm going to talk about now is the player buff tray, then I'm going to talk about the player debuff tray, and then I'm going to talk about the operations frame. Because, everything else, the way you set it up, if you want to go for a pyramid like me, or if you want to include the minimap, in this section, that's all fine, because we're all different, and whatever you fancy is best for you, whatever works, and that's great. What I'm going to show you in these 3 sections, though, is not really optional, because it's simply the best way of getting the information that you need. So let's start with the player buff tray. What this can show you is any procs. So relics, for example. You have the crit relic, and you want to know when that crit proc is active, so you can put out that burst damage or the burst healing or whatever. So you can see I scaled it down a bit, and so on and so forth. This is not so important. I went for effects for 03. I will show you a picture later on where you can see how that looks like, but whatever you fancy, again, do it. Just enable the bloody thing. If you don't enable it, it's, all these settings will be for naught. Yeah, you can see tray expands horizontally, vertically, and so on and so forth. But here, highlight options. Highlight effects. I put it on 1 minute and below, because any effects that, are on me now show me kind of a timer or an animation that is like a timer, and it will highlight personal effects. So this will actually put a highlight thingy around the icon of the proc that just occurred, which makes it easier for me to notice, and so am more likely not to miss it. And then I sort them by the personal effects, so that the personal effects are in this area and not all over the place. They are together, so I can see, I have 1 proc, 2 proc, or more procs. And I sort them by time remaining, simply because then I don't have to look at the animation, but simply because of the position where in this frame the proc is, I know it's going to last for a couple of more seconds, or it's running out basically now. So this is the player buff tray, how to set it up and how to see that, something cool happened, something procced. The debuff tray, again, the scaling and alpha and effects per row, that's up to you. Enable it though. The only thing I think is important is that you sort all effects, not only the personally applied debuffs that occur all the time, no they don't, that you sort them by apply time, so that you kind of get a good get the information of was this just applied to me, or has that been this debuff been on me for quite some time, just by looking at the thing. Alright, that's for the player debuff, and now we're going to go for the operations frame. I scale it up because I'm a healer. You can do whatever you want with this, but enable it, obviously. And now here is the good part. Debuff scale 0.95 with a global scale of 0.75. So, but it's really almost fully upped. Oh God, English language again, I'm sorry. Yeah, and the buff scale is turned down, and the party spacing is at 22, which means, the space between your party members in your operation frame will be huge, but the icons of the debuffs will also appear. They will be huge, and so it is hard to miss them. And now we're scrolling down, groups per row, groups visible, that's all what you like. Go for whatever you want. This is not recommended by me, it's just what I like. It's, again, with the width and height of the health, that's up to you, and if you want to see a health text, that's up to you as well, but show only removable debuffs. This should be on, because, there are some boss fights where there are debuffs on you which you can cleanse yourself, maybe if you're a DPS. So if you are supposed to cleanse that debuff from yourself, and you always miss it because, well, you don't know when it actually occurs and people need to tell you, this is the way to do it. Because if it's cleansable, it will appear here in the operations frame. And with this setup, it will be huge. You can't miss it. And all the other debuffs will be here, like regularly. In your player's debuff tray, you will see all the debuffs applied to you, so you will have all that information. But here, you will see the stuff that you can cleanse, and it will really pop up. It will be visible. And actually, yeah, I don't want to change it. Actually, I'm going to show you this now. Here you see how this operation frame looks. So the space in between the party members is really huge, but these debuffs here, they are also huge and very visible. So, I mean, if this, for example, is you, and that's the debuff on you, even while looking here, you can't really miss it anymore. And then it's just click yourself, click your cleansing skill, and fine, go on, play. The other thing is, here you can see there are more debuffs on me. This is this one, this is this one, and these two are not cleansable. So by looking here and here, for example as a healer, you can clearly tell, that's cleansable, that's not, which is a good thing. You're not wasting your cleanse on stuff that you can't cleanse. And here in the buff section, you can see these are my 2 procs or 3 procs. So with this and the setup that, personal skills are together and other skills or other buffs are grouped in another section, so I know if I look here, I can see, did my relics proc. If I look here, is something procced that affects a certain skill and makes it better or free. And here I can see all the debuffs that are cleansable, which kind of makes the whole thing bloody easier. Okay, this is basically what I had to say about this. If you have any questions or comments, just put them below and I'm going to read it and reply as always. This is Schnee signing off. Thank you very much for watching and see you next time.